Hello. Oh, you're here. So my name is Edmeades. I'm very, very happy to be here. One of my favorite things in the world to do is inspire entrepreneurs. And I'll tell you why. Because the world needs bored entrepreneurs. No, I mean it. Like, would you agree that the world right now needs like some social improvement, technological improvement, environmental improvement, political improvement? Okay, it needs all that, right? And the people that are trying to do all those improvements, say, for example, politically, socially, are they the right people right now? I don't know. It's debatable, right? It's debatable. But you know what I found is that if I could magically go out in the world and give more time and money to the average person, the average employee, what would they do with more time and money? Bigger TV, more Netflix. Right? That's what the average person would do with more time and money. And if I give more time and money to the average politician, what will they do with it? They'll waste it. They'll find an effective way to pay $800 for a hammer. It won't work very well. But you know what's crazy is if you find a way to give entrepreneurs more time and money, what do? They build more amazing things. They get bored with their business and they start another business, or they take on a social project. And that's exactly what happened to me. I've been very lucky in business. I started my first business when I was 27. It was a tech company selling wireless networking before Wi-Fi was cool. We were selling wireless networking to logistics companies and that sort of stuff. And then I sold that business. I exited. Then I traveled the world for a couple of years trying to find myself. I looked in Bali. I never did. But then I got involved in some other businesses. So I bought a Hollywood special effects studio in California, and I worked on Avatar and Pirates of the Caribbean. And then we did the coolest thing. We recognized that the business we were in, the industry we were in, was dying, and that was practical special effects. You know, in the old days, Pirates of the Caribbean, you guys know Pirates of the Caribbean, the Black Pearl was built in my studio before I bought it, but it was built there. It was a real ship. Now, it was a 1/3 scale ship. It was 1/3. But Johnny Depp never, ever stood on a pirate ship. Not once. He never did. But he stood on a barge, and then they digitally put him on the pirate ship. But for the first 2 Pirates of the Caribbean movies, it was actually a ship. By Pirates of the Caribbean 3, the ship was digital. And we were doing practical stuff. That was going to be a problem for us. So we had a pivot. We also made creatures for the movie industry. And then one day, we were approached by the US government, and they said, could you, instead of making creatures, could you make super realistic trauma simulation dummies for doing first aid training? Sound good? Has anybody done CPR training on a dummy? How real was it? It's like a mannequin from the, it's not real, not anymore. Now, our dummies are so real that medics would start interacting with the dummies that were mimicking amputations, gunshot wounds. I mean, really tough stuff because it was for military and first responder use. And so medics would come and interact with our dummies, and then they would decide they didn't want to be medics anymore. That's how good the dummies were. It turned it into a $12 or $15 million a year business. I went off and did a couple of other things. I mention this to you because what happened each time I had a success in business is I got bored and I did the next thing and the next thing. And about 10 years ago, I got bored again and I made a new decision. The decision was to go out and teach, and largely to teach business. It's a big thing that I do. I enjoy it a lot. But the first thing I want to start with is this. I actually started my sort of speaking, teaching career here in Europe. My accent, where am I from? US. I'm Canadian. Let's just get that right straight now. But I did start my career in really largely in Europe. In fact, the very first serious professional speaking I did was in Sweden. And I went off to Sweden to go and speak, and I went to Sweden, and I'm talking, and the Swedish they're different than Canadians and Americans. They kind of sit there. There's an arrogance, you know, they're tough people. And I stop and I say to them, look, guys, like, jump in with me. Let's get interactive about this. Like, you know, it'll be more fun. And the Swedes are like, well, we don't do that. We're Swedish. And if you don't like it, wait till you go to Norway. And true enough, I go off to Norway, and they're right. They're even more structured and stiff. And I'm saying the same thing to them. Come on, get in with me. And they're like, we don't do that. We're Norwegian. And if you don't like it, wait till you go to Finland. And so off to Helsinki I go. I accept the challenge, and I go to Helsinki, and I go out, and I'm speaking in front of a few hundred people, and I'm giving them everything. And every now and again, I have to check, because, like, I don't know if they're breathing. I'm not getting anything. It's like, did they put statues in here? Did they get dummies from my company? That's what's going on here. They're not actual people. And I finished the talk and I felt so drained, and I left, and I'm after the event, I'm sitting having a drink, and the organizer comes up to me and he goes, Eric, that talk. And I go, I know, I'm sorry. I know, I'm never coming back to Finland again, I'm sorry. My reputation is mud now. And he goes, no, that talk was amazing. What do you mean? He goes, didn't you see the audience? And I go, didn't you? And he goes, yeah, that's the most excited I've ever seen them. And I go, oh, that's such a hard audience to deal with. And he goes, man, if you think that, wait till you go to Estonia. All right, kidding aside, business is a real opportunity to change lives. The first person's life you change, obviously, is your own, and then you get to change the lives of all your employees, and then you get to possibly change the lives of hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of people. But I want to introduce a new idea of a unicorn for you, because everybody wants to start their unicorn, right? I want to start my unicorn. So, what is the actual definition of a unicorn in the startup world right now? Somebody tell me.
1 billion.
1 billion in how long? Isn't it under 10 years? If you do it under 10 years, I think they call that a unicorn. I have a new definition of a unicorn. It's you start a business, and within a year or 2 or 3, you don't have to go to work anymore, but your business runs smoothly, it operates, it generates a profit, and you get to spend time with your family, and you're healthy. That's a unicorn. Do you understand? Like, I have friends that have started unicorns, and I've looked at some of their lives, and what I'm noticing is they're not healthy, and they're unhappy, and their families don't even know their names. And what I want to suggest is that real freedom in business is about starting a company that doesn't take over your life. It's about starting a company that allows you to live your passion, but also allows you to be with your family, take care of your health, travel, and enjoy yourself. Does that make sense? That's a real unicorn. It's a fascinating idea, and I don't even know why it has to be about $1 billion. Do you even know how big $1 billion is? Do you really? I don't know if you do. I'm going to tell you how big $1 billion is. I want you to really get this. If you have €1 million, and you spend 83,333 euros a month, you will burn through €1 million in a year. I've done it. You can do it. Who's up for the challenge? All right. To spend $1 billion, you would have to do that for 1,000 years. Do you understand the difference? Like, people talk about millionaires and billionaires. They're not the same thing. It's not even close. I'm not focused on the number of zeros. I'm focused on the quality of life. So I want to share some principles that I've learned over the years that might help you one day if you are pre-startup, or if you're in your startup, or if you're growing your business, or if you're quite established and you're just trying to create more freedom for yourself. So first of all, I want to know where you guys all are. So how many people here, you do not have a business and you have no interest in starting a business? Are there any of those? There's like 2. Smartest people in the room. All right. How many of you don't have a business yet, but you're going to start one day maybe? All right. How many of you have a business, but your business is really you at the moment, so you're like a solopreneur, you're in that early stage? Very brave people. Not so smart. Kidding. And then how many of you are in that like next micropreneur level? You've got a small team around you and it's starting to get some momentum. Who's in that category? Excellent, fun category. Not a lot of sleep, but fun. Now, how many of you you're progressing to the larger team, 10, 15 plus people, and it's starting to really get exciting? You're starting to have some financial like freedom in your life. Who in the category? All right. Now, how many of you have a business that is running so effectively that if you didn't go to work for 4 or 5 months, you answered the odd email, but not every day. Like once a week, you looked at email and you left, and the company would continue to grow, it would operate, and it would continue to function really well. Who's got that business? Now, if you look at the hands, guys. You should have lunch with these people because that's a unicorn. I don't care what the revenues are. If they're profitable, if they're paying themselves well, and they're living a great life, that is the real unicorn. The statistics are this. If you start a business, you have an 80% chance of being dead. Not you, the business. 80% chance you won't make it to 5 years. Does that sound like a good investment? Your investment advisor comes to you and says, hey, I want you to put $100,000 into this investment fund, but it fails 80% of the time. That's entrepreneurship. And then the ones that get through, the ones that make it, the 1 out of 5 that gets to the 5-year mark, what kind of life are they typically living? damn difficult. They're working really hard. They're not sleeping all that well. They're not spending enough time with their kids. And it's not what they thought it was going to be. Does that make sense? Hello? So the real unicorn is the one where you grow a business and the business creates a life of its own and it becomes an independent thing that doesn't need you to be there anymore. And by the way, that doesn't mean you won't be there. It doesn't mean that at all. It means that when you are there, you are spending 90% of your time doing what you love to do inside that business. And when you are there, you understand that it's optional. My first company, it took me 6 years to get there. I started the business, I worked incredibly hard. And at 6 years, I remember I walked into my office one day and I had 2 assistants. I had Jenny and Sue. Sue was really Jenny's assistant, but the 2 of them kept my life organized for me. And the deal back then was when I walked in, I had a desk planner and it had my day written out. I was a traditionalist. I like to see it physically on the paper. And she wrote it out, the day there, the schedule, the items that I needed to work on, and the optional projects that I could take on if I had some time in my day. And I walked in and Jenny hadn't done it. It was empty. And she'd worked for me for years and never missed. And I walk out and I go, Jenny, what's with the desk planner? And she goes, it's done. What do you mean it's done? She goes, there's nothing, you don't have anything on your schedule today. There's nothing for you to do, and there's no projects anybody wants you to start. In fact, everybody wants you to go home because it's all working. And whenever you get in, it gets expensive and you want to make changes. And she's like, it's working, it's working, it's working. Would you please go? Does this sound like a good day? Who wants a day like that? Yeah, your company operates for you. So I want to share a couple of ideas. Here's how freedom works in a business. First of all, it starts when you still have a job. And how much freedom do you have when you have a job, usually? How much? Again, with the responses. Not much. And so you're in your job, and your boss is probably, I mean, if your boss is here, your boss is a very nice person, but if your boss is not here right now, your boss is probably a bit of a jerk. Sometimes, controlling your life, you have to get your vacations approved, ask for more money. I mean, you know, who wants that life? I don't. And so one day I said, that's it. I quit. I quit. You can take this job and, well, I'll be nice about it in case I want to come back, but I quit. I quit the job, and you know what I felt immediately after I quit? Free. I felt phenomenally free. And then I started my business, and I designed business cards. Yeah, they said CEO. That's the Chief Executive Officer. Back then, that was way sexier than founder. Now, founder's better. You can write that on the card. It's right there. And then I worked on the website, and like 2 weeks later, I hadn't done anything for sales. I was just working on the business. And I suddenly realized I have rent to pay. And then I had to like work on marketing, and then I had to work on sales, and then I sold some stuff and I had to ship it, and then I had to do the receiving, and I had to be in the warehouse, and then customer. And I realized that I had quit my job, and I now had 14 jobs. 14 of them. And I used to have one job that I didn't really like. Now I have 14, and I hate 13 of them. I have to do my own accounting. I got to take the garbage out. What the hell? Nobody told me that. And you know, what I really want you to hear and what I want you to understand, I truly believe that entrepreneurship is today's version of royalty if you get it right. Entrepreneurship, if you get it right, it's the opportunity to create the most fantastic life. A few years of hard, smart work, and you can create the life that other people only dream about when they buy a lottery ticket. That's what it is if you do it right. But there is that time where you've got the 14 jobs you have to do. And the problem is that if you have jobs you hate doing them, how well do you do them? Not so well. Procrastinating, not showing up, doing it late. You don't get it done so well. And I want to give you a little tip, and this is the deal. For those of you who already have a business, this is going to be easy. For those of you who don't yet, I want you to remember this exercise. But if you have a business, I want you right now to think about the job that you hate the most that you're still doing. For me, it would be accounting. How many people for it's accounting? Okay, I have good news for you guys. There are people out there, I don't know what's wrong with them. I don't know what happened. Somebody dropped them or something, but they like it. No, there's actually people, I can prove it to you. They buy puzzle books with numbers in them. Like, they have the goal to charge us to play with our numbers, and when they're done playing with your numbers and doing your books, when they're done with that, they then take the money you paid them and they go buy more puzzles, which they do for free. They're sick. But wait a second now. don't you think your business would be a lot better off with somebody doing the numbers that actually likes it? What about somebody doing the marketing that actually likes it? What about somebody doing the sales that actually likes it? That's how you build a unicorn. That's the deal. That's how you build a business that gets you freedom. So right now, I want you to think, what's the job you hate the most? If it's accounting, marketing, sales, whatever it is that you don't like to do, when you get home tomorrow or tonight or whenever it is, I want you to sit down and write yourself a letter and quit. No, I mean it. I want you to send yourself notice. Dear me, I quit. I'm giving you 6 months notice and I'm going to be out. And this might sound like a pointless exercise to you. I will remind you that Keanu Reeves once wrote himself a check for $10 million and post-dated it by a year. Crazy, silly manifestation. He 10 million, post-dated it. And almost to the day that he was ready to cash the check that he wrote himself when he didn't have $10 million, he landed a more than $10 million advance to do Dumb and Dumber. There's something magical that happens in the universe when you commit something to writing. And I'm asking you to quit the job. You write to yourself, dear me. And by the way, you can either quit or fire yourself. That's an option. Like if it's accounting and you hate doing it, then you're probably doing a bad job. So you go, dear you, you're out. You're fired. You have 6 months. But I want to tell you why you do this. Because once you quit and you provide notice, you will start doing the job slightly better than you were before. The reason you do it badly is you feel like it's going to be forever. The reason you do it badly is it feels like a trap that you're stuck in. But once you give notice, you go, well, I'm only going to do this for about 6 months. So you start going, well, and you start doing it better. You do it on time. Then another thing happens. You're more inclined to write down what you're doing. You're more inclined to proceduralize it. You're more inclined to go, well, I'm leaving. Like, I'm going to have to replace me. And whoever I replace me with needs to know how to raise an invoice. So you're going to take out a piece of paper and go, raise an invoice, open the software. This is how we do it. Because that way, when you train somebody, it's going to be easy. And then the third magical thing that happens is once you quit, you will start watching the world around you for the person who should be in that job. It's amazing. Because you'll start thinking about it. Like, if you're a creative, should you be doing your own accounting? No, that's how you end up in prison. Creative accounting is prison. You don't want to be doing that. Now that means that you're out at a networking event and you meet somebody and they go, oh, I'd love to work with you. And you go, that'd be great. We should work together. Now, here's the problem. The way this works, the way the interview usually works is you're the creative. Hey, we're having an interview. I'm going to tell you all about my company. We're building it. It's going to be fantastic, and we're going to launch this thing, and it's going to take over the world. And the person, they say to you, oh, my God, that's incredible. I read about this book that you can do this, and you can have a frictionless growth pattern, and we're going to take over the world together. Is this a good interview? Yeah, sure it is. Look at the synergy. Look at the connection. Oh, it feels amazing. Do we hire that person? Do we partner with them? Do we give them equity? Yeah, it happens all the time. Now you have two people that like doing the same stuff and two people that hate doing the same stuff. Problem. Major problem. Instead, you want an interview goes like this. Hey, we started up 3 years ago, and then we launched this, and we had that, and we've got this new launch coming up, and we're going to take over the world. Did you have any idea how much that's going to cost? Do we hire that person? No, we don't. Be honest. We should, but we don't. We don't. And I'll tell you, part of the issue here is that we want to surround people around us that we like. But there's a funny thing in the English language. I don't know if this works in Estonian as well. I've tried to learn Estonian, but my oska, it's not going to happen. But in English, you like something, but you can be like something, right? Similar. So you can like something, and you can like it, be similar. And people like people that they're like. And then we hire people that we like because we're like them. No! You know, what happens if you have a kite flying off in the sky and you let go of the string? What happens? What happens? It does not fly away. It falls down. It requires the resistance. When you sit here and talk about your dreams and your passions and how you're going to blow up the world, you need somebody to go, dude, don't you? Dude, hold on. We got to have some practicality here. And so what'll happen is once you quit that job, once you fire yourself from that job, you'll now go to a networking meeting, you'll be out in the world, and you'll meet somebody, And they're like, wow, that sounds like you have a really interesting business, but have you thought about this? And have you thought about that? And you're like, oh, a details person. That's like the kind of person I'm not, which is why I had to fire me. And when you leave the job, you'll start doing it better. You'll start documenting it better because you know you're replacing yourself, and you will start noticing the people around you that you really want. Does this make sense? Yep. Hello? Yes. All right, now let's do this. Let's talk more about interviewing, right? Average interview, you get the applications in or a resume, CV, you look at it, text all the boxes, so we're gonna have an interview. We sit and have an interview. The interview kind of goes like this. Yeah, this is our business. We're doing that. We're doing that. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And the person tells you a little bit. Have they prepared what they're about to say? Yeah, they've prepared it. It's a script. Then you ask them some questions like, well, why did you leave your last job? Were they ready for that question? Yes, they were ready for that question. You know why they were ready? Because they went to Google and said, what kind of questions am I going to get? And then they said, how should I answer those questions? So now, why did you quit your last job? Well, I quit my last job because I felt as though I had exhausted the full runway of opportunity in the organization, and I felt I needed. And so you're basically having a scripted conversation with the person, and you're not meeting the real person. So instead, you do a different interview. You have a chat, you get to know them, you find out if you like them enough, that you enjoy them enough that you might want to hire them. If you want to hire them, you move to next gear. Next gear goes like this. So where do you like to take your vacations? That's not a question they're expecting. Google didn't tell them that, unless they were on my website. Google didn't tell them that. Google didn't tell them how to answer it. So they're sitting there, and people are very bad at lying spontaneously. They're not very good at that. So if they have a chance to prepare their lie, they will come and give you the scripted answer, but they weren't ready for that. So one person says, oh, I just love to head down to the south of Estonia, go camping with my friends. There's a nice place with the cabin and the lake and the sauna. I love it. Connecting. It's beautiful. Have you learned something about this person? Have you? Yeah, you've learned. You've learned about their values, which is actually what you're trying to find out, right? Next person you interview, so where's your favorite vacation? They're like, Vegas. I love Vegas. Last time we went to Vegas, I woke up in Bangkok with a tiger in my room. Do you hire that person? No. Okay. So you start asking atypical questions. You start learning a little bit about them. But now if you've decided you do like them, you would at this point you would normally offer somebody the job. But I want you to know at this point you still don't know enough. And how you're going to do this is you're going to challenge them. Is there anybody out here in the first couple rows, say you're a sales and marketing person, you're kind of strong on the sales and marketing front? Yeah, you're sales and marketing? All right, so you and I are doing an interview right now, and what's your name? Tanil. So Tanil and I have been doing our interview. I've asked him about his favorite vacation and atypical questions, and I've realized we have a possible values match. I think he'd fit in with the culture. But he says he's a sales guy. So I want to make sure that he actually is a sales guy. Now, I could do the old methods. Tell me about your sales experience in the past. Well, I was the top salesperson at the... No. I don't want 10 minutes ago, he was standing in the bathroom at the mirror going, I was the top salesperson. No, that's too strong. And he's practicing, so I don't want that. I don't want practice tunnel. I want the real dude. So, hey, I've really enjoyed this interview. It's been good. The thing is, though, we have a very high-pressure environment. We're growing aggressively. We're quite competitive. And I'm just not picking up that super strong competitive spirit in you. What do you think about that? Tell me. You don't know enough about me then, he says. That's a good start. But the thing is, when you challenge them like that, it's the same with an accountant. I'm looking for a really good accountant, but our company is all about diligence, accuracy, and everything being on time. And I'm just not picking up that level of detail from you. You see what I'm doing? I'm pushing back on the thing I want to make sure they have. And so you're going to get one of three responses. Response number one is they're going to give you this kind of an answer. Oh, yeah, that might be true. They're going to say that, right? They're going to say that. You've just saved yourself one of the most expensive mistakes in business, and that is hiring nice, ineffective people. It's one of the most expensive things in business, nice, ineffective people. You don't want to hire them. The other response you might get is something like this. I don't know what you're talking about. I've been the top sales. Now you've avoided hiring an asshole. You've avoided a lawsuit. Like and I've had this happen when I've done this. They have a meltdown. Well, if they're gonna have a meltdown in an interview, I guarantee you they're gonna have a meltdown in your business. Does that make sense? What you're looking for is the one who says something like that. Well, maybe you just don't know me very well yet. What's that? Oh, there, see, she's selling. She goes, give me a try. Let me prove it to you. I've been top wherever I am, and they fight back, and you reject them 2 or 3 times, and you make them prove to you that they're good. Does this make sense? This is really valuable. Now, one more little trick. You go like this. You pick up your phone. You actually pick it up in your hand. It's a weird psychological thing. You pick up the phone, and you go, so if I was on the phone with your old boss right now, what would he or she say to me about you? And they've never been asked this in an interview before. And here's what's going to happen. There's a weird thing about you having the phone like this. It creates a feeling for them like you actually are on the phone with the boss. And it makes it impossible to lie. It really does. So the first time I learned this, and I did it the first time, and I was in the interview, and I say to the guy, so if I was on the phone with your old boss right now, what would your boss say about you? And I kid you not, this is what he said. He would tell you, I'm a very good salesperson, I'm not as organized as I could be, and I'm often late. And I'm like, well, thanks for telling me. No kidding. The next day, I was calling the references, and I called his boss. I said, I got Jimmy in here for the interview. What would you say about him? He goes, great sales guy. Not so organized, late way too much. It's an amazing thing if you structure your interviews really effectively. So the first thing is you want to quit the jobs that you shouldn't be doing. Your goal, in my opinion, when you start a business, is to build a business around you that allows you to do what you love. You to do what you love. I want you to understand, if you really want to understand attraction, how many of you guys know the law of attraction, the movie The Secret, this kind of airy-fairy stuff, and crystals and incense and stuff? Fine. Okay, fine. But if you really want to understand the law of attraction, it works this simply. The more you are enjoying your life and your business, the more attractive you will be. That's it. The more you are enjoying yourself, the more you are having fun, the more passionate enjoyment you have for your business, for your job, for your activities, the more attractive you'll be to employees, to investors, to customers. It's that simple. So that means build a business where you spend 90% of your time doing what you love and that your employees and partners are also spending 90% of their time doing what they love. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? All right, now, I'm going to share you with one more thing. It is the single most powerful thing I think I could teach you about business, or I could share with you about business, and that's this. It comes in 2 forms. The first thing is, if you want to build a good business, then you should study business. You want to build a good business, you read books about business, go and do some business courses, get a business mentor, all that stuff. If you want to build a phenomenal business, a truly outstanding, amazing, phenomenal business, then you work on you. You work on you, and you become the very best version of you. And your authenticity and your passion, and those things will drive your business. And then part of that goes to the next thing, and that is that the skill set that will be the most valuable to you as an entrepreneur, as a startup entrepreneur, as any kind of business owner, frankly, as any kind of employee, the single most important skill you could have. No, you tell me, what is it? What's the most important skill that the entrepreneur has to have? Focus. They have to have focus. That's the big commodity of the next 10 years with all the, no. Well, yes. Sex. I don't know where that came from, but yes, you have to have good sex, but that's something else. Sorry, go ahead. Sales. You have to be good at sales. Yeah, I would say that's the single, except if you don't have really good stuff. I don't know. Yeah, it's good. What else? Self-awareness. You have to know, yes, true, but not the thing I'm looking for. Passion! Well, Steve Jobs says it best, man. If you don't have the passion, then every single obstacle that gets in your way is going to stop you. So you got to have the passion. All these things are true, but I will tell you that from a skill perspective, what's in your heart, the number one thing that will create the biggest explosion for you in your business is becoming comfortable and confident with speaking to people and communicating effectively. And the trouble is, most people are not. Most people have some version of glossophobia, fear of public speaking. Some of you have even started to feel sick because I'm talking about it. I know, I can already feel it. I can feel. Some of you go, oh no, he's talking about speaking. We're not doing that. I can feel it. In fact, during the break when you guys were out, we put envelopes underneath all the chairs. Don't check yet. But we did, and the reason we did that is that I wanted to hear how you guys pitch when you're spontaneously pitched, but you don't get to pitch your thing. Inside the envelope, there's a word, and you have to come up, and you got to talk for 1 minute about that word. Are you guys ready? So if you get the envelope, don't open it. Don't open it till you get up here, but check for your envelope. Go. Check. There's no envelope. There's no envelope. But how many of you are feeling a little nervous right now? How many's feeling a little, you feeling it? What I want you to know is that overcoming that and becoming comfortable and confident with public speaking is the most important investment you could make in your business. It makes you a better manager and leader. It makes you better at raising money with investors. It makes you better in every capacity because you start communicating effectively. The trouble is that most of us are kind of nervous about it, and I want you to know it's not your fault. Here's the deal. First of all, public speaking is not like golf. If you wanted to become a serious top-level golfer, you could. You go hire the best coach. You play golf for 10 hours a day for the next 10 years, and you might get on the senior tour. Could happen. It's possible. With public speaking, it's not like that. It's already consistently inside you. You were born with it. It's inside you right now, and I can prove it to you. How many of you are better storytellers with 3 glasses of wine? Anyone? Right? How many of you are better golfers with 3 glasses of wine? Doesn't work like that, right? And the reason is that the 2 or 3 glasses of wine helps you release the ego shell that your parents and your school put around you to stop you being comfortable with speaking. And now, you know, I watched one of the speakers a couple days ago. We were here, and I watched one of the speakers doing a very good presentation, but then the Q&A part came. And all of a sudden, he completely relaxed. And he's like, you know, when he did the good part, it was like, I'm doing a very good presentation. I'm doing it just like they taught me at Toastmasters. I've got it all locked down. I'm speaking in good rhythm, and everything is fine. Then they started asking him questions. He's like, oh my God, yeah, when you do that in your business. Totally different. Why? Because he's not concentrating on the audience anymore, and his ego isn't getting in the way. And so I want you to know that you, right now, could make the single biggest investment in your life by just getting out and practicing, by forcing yourself to pitch, by going to Toastmasters, by learning how to become comfortable speaking. Does it make sense? So I'm going to give you a quick clinic on this because, you see, I used to be so terrified of public speaking, it would make me sick. And one day my father came up to me and he goes, Eric, it's my AA birthday. He's in Alcoholics Anonymous. I know I'm not supposed to tell you, but he tells everybody. So, you know. And you got to come and give me my cake at AA. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm terrified of public speaking. He convinces me to do it. Why? He goes, well, Eric, look, you got to do it. I know you're afraid, but look, it's not my major year. It's only 13. It's not like a 5 or a 10. And in that moment, I'm thinking, you just don't understand sobriety. Like every single day of sobriety is important. Like, well, how could the 13th year be more? And I suddenly had an idea of what I would talk about. And I was like, all right, I'll do it then. Interesting clue. The more passionate you are about your topic, the easier it is to step onto the stage. Does that make sense? So now I get to the event. I don't want to do it. I'm terrified. I sit at the very back over there, and I'm sitting a bunch of guys who are very boisterous. And not only are they boisterous, but I recognize something funny about them. They're airline pilots. Now, I don't know if this is good or bad news, but AA is full of airline pilots. I don't know, good or bad, but I'm back there, and I'm freaking out. And the guy who walks on stage in front of me, have you guys seen Groundhog Day? Anybody seen it? If you haven't seen it, there's a insurance salesman, Ned Ryerson, and he's like the caricature of an American insurance salesman, just in your face all the time. And this guy goes on stage, and he's more like Ned than the actor in the movie. And the audience doesn't like him. They don't like him. He only comes to meetings once a year to get his cake. That's the only reason he ever comes. So they don't like him at all. And he does this whole speech, and in the middle of it, he goes, yeah, it's good to be back here, you guys. I was just in LA for the weekend. Has anybody here ever been to LA? It's like, you don't talk like that at AA. You don't do that. And one woman raised her hand, and he was like, you've been to LA? Well, my brother has this place, and it's just, oh my God. And it's a corner store, and if you go stand, you can see the Hollywood sign. It's like, no, dude, that's not how you talk to this audience. I was cringing. It was awful. And the pilots are making all these comments. And then you know what? I had to walk up on stage, and I'm standing up there. I'm so terrified. I'm shaking. There's a podium, so nobody can see that I'm shaking, but I'm shaking. And at AA, you're supposed to say, hi, my name's Eric, and I'm an alcoholic. Now I know something about you. You're supposed to say that, but I didn't. I said this. I'm sitting there, and I don't know where the blinding idea came from, but I suddenly realized that my dad is sitting over here. I have to introduce him. And I suddenly recognize I have this thought of the American courtroom drama shows. You know the kind I'm talking about? And I'm standing there, and I don't know why that pops into my head, but maybe it's the podium. And I go, hi, my name's Eric, and my father's an alcoholic. And everybody busted out laughing, and I learned something really, really powerful. If you can get a laugh, if you can get a giggle early on in your talk, everything gets easier. You guys don't want to spend hours and hours writing talks out. You want to spend hours and hours on the first 3 minutes, and then after that, it'll be easy. Does this make sense? It changes everything. It changes absolutely everything. And I want to share it with you like this. Most of the things that you find difficult in life, they're only really difficult for the first 5 or 10%. And if you really want to have a fantastic and outstanding life, you learn how to deal with that first 5 or 10%. Has anybody put their feet in the thing with the fish that eat your feet? You know what I'm talking about? How does it feel for the first minute? It's awful. After that, all good, right? Go ahead. Eat my feet. It's fine. And what I want to suggest to you is that if you can learn that skill with everything in business, everything you find a little difficult, everything you find a little uncomfortable, everything you find a little embarrassing, you can change everything. And so I want to suggest to you that the things you've learned at this conference, the people that you've met, if you start to feel a little resistance, oh, I should call that person, oh, I feel a little like I shouldn't, do it anyway. If you feel like you should try something new in your business, ooh, I might fail, do it anyway. And if you feel like you should go out and practice some public speaking and pitching somewhere, and then you feel a bit nervous about it, do it anyway. If you can learn to get through that first 5%, you will transform your life as a business owner. And I'm just going to say this. Entrepreneurship is the ultimate expression of personal freedom and impact if you practice it correctly, and I hope you will. Thank you guys very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, for an amazing speech. Thank you so much. We have a couple of questions by the audience. First, how to audit your life to understand what's working, what's not working, what should you delegate? Do you have any kind of process for that?
Yeah, twofold. One is do it often and regularly. Don't wait till December 31st to audit your life and set New Year's resolutions. You should be on a weekly basis assessing what's working and not working and making small course corrections. A plane leaving Los Angeles, flying to Hawaii is off course 90% of the time, and the computer or the pilot is constantly bringing it back. As an entrepreneur, you have to get good at that, and there's one really interesting tool about that. If the stuff you're doing is not fun, then what you want to do is get it done as well as possible, but you want to make your business so you can stop doing that stuff and mostly spend time on fun.
So you recommend doing it weekly, monthly, daily?
I think that a daily intention for the day is really important. What is this day about? And let's not get off track. And I think doing that weekly. But for me, I do really serious quarterly planning sessions. And then once a year in November, I will do a major life planning reset. I do it in November. And the reason I do it in November, and this is important, is most people do it on December 31st, and then they go get drunk. And then by January 1st, they've already let it all go, right? What I do is I start in November so that I can start living that way, and then I have a head start when the year starts, and then I have the most incredible year.
Okay, another one. The philosophy of grinding at first to have a freedom later. When do you know that you have been grinding for too long?
There's a number of different ways, but the one is if you're just not enjoying yourself at all, that's a problem. It's gone too far. I reached a point when I was in the third or fourth year of my business. I hated my business, my first one. I'd worked in that industry for 7 years before I started the business, and then I started the business, and 3 years later, I was 10 years in, and I hated it. I didn't even like scanning my own groceries. I didn't want to be there. My business mentor said an important thing to me. They said, when was the last time your business gave you goosebumps, made you feel good? And I said, oh, it's when I helped one of my employees get a mortgage. And he asked me for 3 more, and every single time it was about a way that I'd helped one of my employees. And he goes, I have a solution for you. You don't run a data capture company. You don't run a mobile computing company. You run a personal development company that happens to sell technology. And the minute he taught me that reframe, the minute I saw that, I loved my business again.
So sometimes it just needs to reframe the whole thing.
Yeah, look, life is bloody short, you guys. I mean, just 4 weeks ago, we're flying here. We're flying across the ocean, and all of a sudden, the plane starts going into a dive, and oxygen masks drop out of the roof, and the captain comes on and says, and we're freaking out, and we thought we were going to die. That's what he said. I mean, No, that is actually what he said. Like that he was so scared, the captain was so scared that he was shouting so loudly that none of us could hear anything. And for 6 minutes, the plane dove toward the earth from 40,000 feet to 3,000 feet. It was insane. And you know, when that happened, I was like, I already kind of knew this in my life, but man, it's short. It's way too short. Like, look, I'm not against Netflix, but here's what I'd say to you. If you're not loving it, don't watch it. And I would say the same thing about your business. If you're not loving it, then either stop doing it or do it really, really well so you'll be able to train the next person to do it well.
Then one question, I don't know if you know the answer for that, but it goes like this. When are you going to get bored of this teaching job?
Yeah, you know, that's interesting. I wonder about that. I can't imagine it, but I'll tell you, roughly, I think it'll work like this. I have traveled all over the world. I've spoken in 30 some odd countries. I've shared the stage with President Clinton, Richard Branson. I've met the most phenomenal people. I love this in every possible way. I've done something like 10,000 hours on stage. And 3 times I've walked off the stage and thought, man, did I rock it. Nothing to learn today. 3 times it's happened. And all 3, those are the only 3 times I've ever had a producer come up and go, not exactly what we were looking for. So for me, it's really simple. If ever I start consistently coming off the stage and I feel like it was perfect, then I'll get bored. If I don't have something to improve about it, if I don't have a sense that I'm making it better every single time, then I'm done.
You might have answered the next question as well. That is, what holded you on a path of speaking when you started in Sweden, being Canadian?
It actually started with a talk in London. And at that time, mostly I was speaking about health and nutrition because it was my hobby. How many of you guys know WildFit, my company WildFit? So my company WildFit has been a life passion of mine for something like 20 some odd years. And I started speaking about that. But I found out something interesting about speaking about health. Nobody pays you for that. Like, they won't pay you. And you know, when I started speaking about business, I was like, holy cow, they not only pay you, but like, you get to fly at the front of the plane. I think I'd like to teach business, but that's not really what happened. What happened is a friend of mine asked me to come and do a talk in London for 80 entrepreneurs. And I thought I was there to talk about like health. And about 15 minutes before I'm going on stage, he goes, so what are you going to talk about today? And I told him, and he goes, no. We brought you here to talk about business. I go, I'm not a business speaker, I'm a health speaker. And he goes, yeah, but you sold your company and everybody wants to know about exiting the business. And I'm like, so I had 15 minutes to prepare a 90-minute talk on business. And I walked on stage and I did the talk, and then they wanted me to do Q&A. And the Q&A was scheduled for 15 minutes or so, and it went on for an hour and a half. It went on for an hour and a half because people wouldn't stop asking questions. And there were these moments that happened. I remember very clearly, there was a guy sitting right about where you are, and he said, I have a real problem. And I could feel the pain in his body. I could feel it. And he goes, I have to fire somebody. And at that point, I realized I hadn't had to fire anybody for years because my business was, I didn't do the hiring and firing anymore. That's a weird feeling, by the way, to walk into your business and you go, who is that person? It's somebody we hired. That's a weird feeling. But it's even weirder to walk in and go, where's that guy who said we fired him? You know, it's weird, right? But this guy, as soon as he said I have to fire somebody, I felt the pain. I could feel it. I could see it on him. And then I stopped and I thought back to our company's policy on firing. And I'll tell you briefly, my policy is if you ever have to fire somebody, it's entirely your fault. It's your responsibility. It means you either didn't hire well, or you didn't train well, or you didn't correct well. It's up to you. And I told him that. And then I said, but here's what you do. And I gave him a step-by-step process. And I said, by the end of that, that person will either quit happy they worked for you, or they will be rehabilitated and they'll stay with you and you won't have to fire them. And as soon as I shared the formula with him, I watched his shoulders settle back down. I saw him move his breathing from up here to down here. And I felt the stress melt off his body. And then I thought, that's what I want to do for a living. I want to do that for people. And that's what got me into business speaking. And that's what kept me through the long flights and the crazy schedules and stuff.
Amazing story. Thank you so much, Eric. Let's give him another round of applause.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.